Hey, here we go.
Hey, we're starting a podcast.
Season 3 of a podcast.
Season 3? What the hell, Brant?
Yeah, I know.
This is neat.
This is good.
We are in season 3 of I'm Listening. We're kicking it off. We're kicking off season 3 of I'm Listening, our podcast that we started well over a year ago. And there is, believe it or not, even more things to talk about when it comes to listening to produce a season 3. And I am very, very excited for it. Are you excited for it, Brant?
I'm very excited.
Cool. Hey, did you hear the other day that this thing? I was at this party and I overheard these people. I didn't really overhear. I was kind of like leaning in on their conversation and just wanted to. Did you hear about what happened to Billy and John?
See, you're eavesdropping?
I mean, I wasn't eavesdropping, but they were talking privately.
You overheard something?
No, I wasn't eavesdrop. That's rude. But I was, they were talking about this thing in this kind of public setting. And so I just kind of leaned in my ear a little bit and I pretended to talk to another person, but I wasn't really talking to them. I was really listening in on what these two guys were talking about. It was crazy. I can't wait to share it with you.
Okay. Yeah. What did you learn with this information?
Well, I felt a little guilty because it probably wasn't for my ears. But also, if you're going to talk about that stuff in public, I have the right to listen to that, right?
Kind of crossing some boundaries, I think.
What do you mean? Oh, I'm not supposed to eavesdrop?
No, you're supposed to probably have their permission to listen into their conversation. It could be kind of considered rude if you're listening in that they don't know that you're listening in. That's called being rude.
Okay. Is it rude for them to be talking about this thing that they shouldn't be talking about in public? Is that their responsibility?
It might be irresponsible of them. Yeah.
Okay.
If you're going to be talking about stuff that might be a little salacious, you don't want to do that in a public space.
That's true. Because somebody might be eavesdropping on you and you don't necessarily want that information to go out.
No. That's why we kind of lean in and whisper a little bit when we're talking about something personal.
Oh, right.
And yeah, we lean in and we whisper a little bit because we don't want other people to overhear what we're talking about.
That's true. Because that information might turn into gossip and might kind of be in the ears of people you don't necessarily want it to be in.
I always perk up a little more. If I see people like quieting down and leaning in, I'm like, oh yeah. Oh, that means it's getting good. Like, I think I want to hear what you're going to say.
Yeah. Now I need to pay more attention and lean into that conversation.
Yeah. And
then, Brant, on my way to that event, I was walking down the street and I overheard this couple fighting. It was really awkward. Okay. And I mean, they were in the streets and they were just arguing about where they were going to go for dinner. And he really liked Italian and she really wanted sushi. And they were just kind of arguing about it. I don't know. I overheard it and I just kept on walking with my life. But it was kind of weird. It was just kind of didn't settle right that they were doing that in public.
Okay. So you overheard something.
Is that the same as eavesdropping?
No. I think eavesdropping is intentional, where overhearing something is you just overhear something.
All right.
But it is similar in that sense, right? Like I overheard a couple looking for a certain kind of soup at the store, right? And they weren't finding it. And I overheard, I'm like, oh, that's over in that aisle over there.
Oh,
I just saw it over there.
You helped them.
So it could be kind of maybe it's tricky though, because what if I overheard something I didn't want to overhear?
But if it was just about where the soup is in the grocery store, then that's okay.
Yeah, but I don't get to choose what I overhear, do I?
Yes. So overhearing, eavesdropping, two different things. Environment in which the conversation's being had is a factor. This is a podcast that values the skill of listening, but we also have to discuss when it's okay to listen in and when it's not okay to listen in. So we are going to tackle the topic of eavesdropping. And my question to you, Brant, is eavesdropping a good thing? Your answer?
No.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah,
No.
no.
Maybe.
Yes.
Yes?
No.
No. It's not good to eavesdrop.
Yes, it is.
From conversations to the natural world to complete silence, so many of us focus on what's next rather than what is happening now. I'm Listening is a podcast that dissects the importance of listening.
I'm Drew Richmond.
And I'm Brand Christofferson.
And this is I'm Listening, a podcast simply about the skill of listening.
Okay, so to be fair, I was at the store earlier today, and I was like, okay, Drew and I are going to be talking about eavesdropping. I'm going to practice this. I'm going to practice trying to listen in.
That's really good.
On other people.
That's really good.
Yeah,
I'm glad you're practicing. Glad you're practicing.
Doing my homework. It was boring. No one had anything interesting to say at all. It was very benign. It was a waste of energy. No one had any interesting to say.
Yeah. Well, you know,
but if they did, man.
But you were going to be prepared. I was going
to be prepared.
I was at the local sporting event the other night, and I overheard the fact that Jane's dog just passed away. Oh, okay. Which might explain, it might explain why she's been kind of down the last couple of days. And I didn't really want to say anything, but you know, I mean, she was talking to her friend about it, and I overheard it. But you know, it's just next time you run into her, just know she might be down because her dog passed away. So it's maybe a beneficial side of eavesdropping. Told you, of course, it's fine to eavesdrop. That's why you should, just in case. That's why you should. Right. Well, you should eavesdrop because it would help you, and it'll help your friends, because now you understand a little bit more, even though it's kind of a private thing. She wasn't really saying it out loud. She was just telling her friend sitting right next to her, but I overheard it, and it's okay for me to do that because now I know why she's been down the last few days. Yeah, we're almost looking at a social dynamic, right? We're part of a community of people that the idea of over-listening or overhearing something or maybe eavesdropping could be used to benefit those relationships. I think it could. Yeah, but where do you draw the line, though? Like, I'm just not going to go spy on everybody just to be like, oh, I'm now watching everyone and I know what's going on and I'm going to start pulling the strings. It's kind of creepy, dude. Yeah, understood. People are going to be like, don't sit by Drew. He's the over listener. Don't say that. Never say those things in front of Ted. You know how Ted is. See? All right, we're going to unpack all this because we have a podcast that is called I'm Listening. It's for individuals in the world that value the skill of listening. And we believe that if everybody listened just a little bit better, the world would become a better place. This is in the realm of eavesdropping, overhearing, good, bad, yes, no, in certain cases, okay, can lead to gossip, which is never good. Here we go. Eavesdropping, is it good or bad? One, I think it could be an invasion of privacy, right? If we are listening into something that we're not supposed to be listening into, for sure, that could be morally and ethically wrong. For sure. Right? For sure. I think this is the trap with it, though, because it can also there's so many social contexts to this, and in America, I believe that there's so many factors to this. This is why it kind of goes wrong, right? This is why eavesdropping has been around a really, really long time, and it's been. I don't think a whole lot of people ever say, hey, I was eavesdropping, and people go, oh, cool, how'd that go? Or good for you. You know, like, good for you. I'm glad you did that. No, it's usually in the context of this, like, you're not supposed to do that. That's their business. Yeah. This is your business. You're not supposed to eavesdrop. Hey, don't eavesdrop. That's not nice. But as we unpacked this discussion a little bit more, there's some responsibilities here, because overheard is different than eavesdropping. And it's also, there's some responsibility on the individuals that are having that conversation to be aware of potential eavesdropping or even the potential that they were overheard in their conversation.
Sure. If I've got something personal going on in my life and I am talking about it in a public space where other people might overhear me, I can't be surprised that people overheard me and are talking about it.
You got her, Otter.
So
That's exactly
so there
it.
is some responsibility of me there to just have some discernment that I'm not posting it out there if I don't want other people to hear it. But at the same time, I still think there's responsibility on the listeners as well of, "Oh, I shouldn't be listening to this," to be like, okay, maybe you shouldn't be listening to this.
I shouldn't be listening to this. I should not be listening to this. Where does the term eavesdropping come from, Brant?
I want to say it's English, but it comes from the idea of eaves. Okay, eaves. So eaves, the overhang on your house.
Oh, like
right?
actual
It is an
eavesdropping.
Yes, you are underneath the eaves. You're dropping in under the eaves, kind of listening into the window. That's the idea of eavesdropping. That's where the term comes from, is to intentionally go and listen to someone's
that is
conversation.
So literal.
Yeah.
It never even crossed my mind how literal that is. You're literally under the eave, dropping in on a conversation through the window.
Oh, eavesdropping, are we? I was just checking out your eaves. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, time to change those out. See you later.
Yeah.
All right, so that to me is, you don't just do that. That is an intentional act. And maybe that intentionality of eavesdropping into the other conversation, peering through the window, if you will, to deliberately find out what other people are talking about, even though you're not a part of that conversation, is why this has a negative feel to it. You're not supposed to do it because it's very intentional.
Yeah. If we want to go if we want to go dictionary definition, this is the act of secretly or stealthily listening to a private conversation without the consent in order to gather information. So it is deliberately listening in without them knowing, so you can benefit and gather information. So that is eavesdropping. But we use it more in a loose term a lot of times too.
Yeah.
Right. We were just talking about overhearing something, where overhearing isn't quite deliberate, right? We just might happen by and be like, okay, now it caught my attention. Now I'm going to keep listening.
Yep.
Right.
And that it's distant, not so distant cousin is overhearing. And I think the difference is the intentionality of it. So, or my example earlier with a couple fighting the other day on the streets, and they were arguing of what place to go have dinner that night. I just overheard that. I wasn't following them around to find out what was actually going to happen or what they were talking about. I was crossing them in the street and just overheard what they were saying. It happened. It was situational and it happened. There was no intent.
Correct.
Now,
when you dropped that microphone, when you dropped that bug in her purse to keep listening to their conversation,
right,
I think you crossed some lines there. Yeah.
Right.
Talk about that.
When I turned around and started following them to find out where they actually went for dinner that night, I'm just envisioning Pink Panther hopping down the street and hiding behind staircases and doing all these things, only to find out that they went to the sushi joint, which was, of course, the right decision. That was eavesdropping. Now it's a more of an intentional act.
Yeah, it's kind of creepy.
It is kind of creepy. So that helps the definition. Eavesdropping, negative, intentional, shouldn't do it. Overhearing, maybe perhaps a little bit more passive, not necessarily an intentional act, but more circumstantial.
Sure. And we're kind of putting this in the we're putting these things in two camps of saying one is okay, overhearing is okay, and then eavesdropping not okay. I want to go right down the middle, right? Where is that?
No.
Yeah.
No.
That's where the messy stuff is. That's where the good stuff is.
Oh, that is where the boring stuff is. It is either right or it is wrong. It is either black or white. There is no gray.
Okay, so you overhear your friend talking about her dog dying.
Yes. Okay. Jane.
You overhear that. you choose to keep listening into that conversation. She's not having the conversation with you.
No, I went from overhearing and I overhearing, which was fine, passive, circumstantial. And I quickly, very, very quickly dove into eavesdropping, intentional, not very good, shouldn't do it. But it might be a good explanation of why she's been down over the last few days. And her friend who was talking to me like, Jane never got back to me. I don't know if she likes me or not. Are we fighting? And I was like, oh no, her dog died. I overheard that the other night. Oh, well, that makes sense. That's why she hasn't gotten back to me. Oh, I'll reach out to her.
Got it. So you're doing it more of from an empathetic standpoint of like, oh, that makes sense why she's down. Her dog died. Oh my gosh.
Only to make myself feel better, because it's for like an empathetic thing, right? So that's I drew up that situation because that makes me feel better about myself because I'm helping other people.
But I mean, in a way you could be, right? But okay, now you're taking that information and you are using that to share with other people. She wasn't sharing that with you. She didn't ask you to share that with other people. You're taking that information, you're sharing it with other people.
Yeah.
Now, their actions, right? What is everyone doing now because of that? They are feeling bad for Jane. They have a better level of understanding for Jane. And they're like, oh, you know what? Now I get it. I'm really sorry to hear about that. I'm going to treat her with a little more, I don't know, tenderness or care or something like that because I care.
Right. Or I might unintentionally or very intentionally treat Jane different.
Mm-hmm.
And, and by the way, I misheard. It was actually her uncle's dog that died. My bad. Jane doesn't even have a dog. And the reason why she hasn't gotten back to you is because you really pissed her off 2 weeks ago and she doesn't want to talk to you anymore. Oops.
Nice work. So, okay.
I didn't hear the uncle part.
Yeah. So there's that overhearing turns to maybe eavesdropping, and there's taking action on that.
Yeah. And you take action on it, but so it's also in the mixed message, right? So the gossip. So I just started gossiping about it because I thought it was her dog, but apparently it was her uncle's dog. And then you get into a situation where my brother's sister's cousin's aunt's uncle's nephew's sister's boyfriend heard that Ferris Bueller passed out at the 31 Flavors the other night.
That's it. Right?
Right? And now what are we doing? Now what do we now we have an entire campaign occurring at school to do what, Brant? What are we doing at school right
Ferris.
now?
Save Ferris. We're going to collect money for him.
Now we're saving Ferris. Ferris is in a parade. Ferris is driving his buddy's dad's Ferrari around Chicago with his girlfriend and his best friend while they're going to baseball games. Meanwhile, at the school, they and then his sister knocks the can of coins out of the guy's hand all over the right because she knows it's not true. She knows it's not true.
Yeah,
and all
she's
these people,
mad. She's pissed.
That's what happens when the gossip mill starts going, and that's what happens when I heard that this happened. I overheard. I eavesdropped into this situation, and now Ferris is passed out at the 31 Flavors the other night.
And you probably feel like a schmuck because you were the one spreading the misinformation because you overheard something. So just kind of tying into those negative associations with it again, right?
You have to be careful. You have to be careful. See, this is the yes and part, because now we're even diving deeper into the gray in the world of eavesdropping. Again, we have a podcast about listening. So this is all about in the realms of under the umbrella of listening. Now we have threats against national security. We have threats against public safety.
Mm-hmm.
What are some tactics, Brant, that are paid professionals, experts in the field with decades of training to do what to get intel?
Sure, like espionage or spycraft or like
professional eavesdropping.
Yeah.
Undercover. Wiretapping.
All the stuff you see in the movies.
So now we have like our national security, our public safety relies on eavesdropping, on spies.
Sure. Yeah.
On people dressing like you and getting into your inner circle and listening in on your conversations. How in the hell does that happen? But that's
Who's
okay.
Listening?
But that's okay. Well, yeah, because
is it okay?
Yes, because the grand intent is to protect others, not to spread gossip. It's to protect others. So now, okay, you ready for this? Gee, I wonder why this is confusing and why we're talking about it right now. Overhearing. Overhearing is okay. It's circumstantial and unintentional. But it can turn into eavesdropping, which is negative because it's intentional act, peering through the window under the eave. You're not supposed to be doing it unless you're paid to do it as a professional expert to protect others.
Okay. So what? So does that give me the right then to tap your house?
You can do whatever you want, but it's illegal unless the judicial system says, yeah, you have enough evidence that proves that this is worthy, and we're going to go ahead and give you the documentation to say, yeah, you can go ahead and do that. But you can't do that until the law says you can. You have to prove that there's something that you need to bug this. You can't just come into my house and bug my house and listen in on my information and on my stories. That's illegal. You can't.
I don't think anyone's willingly going to want to have their house tapped. It's like an invasion of privacy, right?
It's an invasion of privacy. But unless I'm doing something bad, now we're going back to the what's it for, right? It's to protect others if there's something that I'm doing that's bad. And the law says you can go ahead and gather that information. You can legally gather this information and eavesdrop on those conversations. If it's better for the public health, then go for it.
Yeah, that sounds creepy.
Well, it's part of the deal, man.
But I don't want to be. I don't want to have my house. I don't want to have my information looked at, stored, gathered, analyzed. I didn't do anything wrong.
All right. Well, then I think what you're starting to get into next is the next chapter of this saga, the moral and ethical dilemmas, or the moral compass of eavesdropping, the moral compass of overhearing, wiretapping, spying, undercover, espionage, international spies, all of those things. What's the moral? How do you gauge this in a moral manner?
Oof, that's a loaded question. I don't think you can. I mean, you do.
But we're taught if it's right or wrong. We're taught that it's wrong. We're taught there's a reason why we are taught that it is wrong.
Yes. Oh man.
Right?
I don't know. We're okay. So
boy.
If I'm in trying to protect my own self-interest, I'm gonna do whatever I can to protect my own self-interest.
Go on.
But so is the other person.
Go on.
How far will I go? Right. I think that's kind of the premise to many stories or books or movies of how far will I go to protect myself or my family or my community or, what have you. What things will I do in order to do that?
Well, we teach kids not to eavesdrop.
Correct.
The intention of it is typically met with, generally speaking, is met with, you shouldn't do this intentional act.
Yeah.
The Bible, I'll explain to you what that is later, but there's this book, right?
Okay.
And there's this book, and generally speaking, it's got a lot of great lessons in there about what is right and what is wrong and all these other things. So here's, let's see. John 10:10, Revelation 3:3. To this extent,
I love that you're quoting Bible verses to me right now.
There's a first for everything, Brant. We're kicking off season 3 with some different dynamics here, my friend.
Okay.
Unauthorized entry to a dwelling is linked to theft.
Okay.
That can be extended to listening to conversations without permission.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. It's theft.
Ecclesiastes.
Right?
Yeah,
Ecclesiastes.
Ecclesiastes 7:21-22. Do not pay attention to every word people say, or you may hear your servant cursing you.
Oh yeah. right?
Proverbs 16:28.
Oh my gosh, it keeps
Perverse
going.
person stirs up conflict, and gossip separates close friends. Right? So this is not... So if we utilized a source, and if that source was the Bible, I would say if there's some morality tied to that no, you're not supposed to do it. It's morally wrong.
I'm going to go the other way now.
Go on.
Okay. So we were looking at morally wrong. You were talking about kids before. And I would say that kids learn a lot through watching, through observing, through eavesdropping. They are tuned in to what is going on. They are watching. They're trying to learn. They're trying to understand how things work.
Okay.
In order to figure out how to best engage or participate in the situation going on.
Okay.
So this idea of trying to understand other people is called theory of mind. Have you heard of this?
No, but go on.
We just went from the Bible to psychology. Okay, so this is the ability, right? The ability to understand the thoughts, the beliefs, and the desires and emotions of other people. Okay?
Say that one more time.
Yeah, theory of mind. This is the ability to understand the thoughts, the beliefs, the desires, and the emotions of other people. I'm trying to understand what's going on, right? So there is an ability to do that called theory of mind.
Okay.
One of the ways that we do that is by listening. I found an interesting study
in the Bible
on this.
In the Bible? Oh
no. Where did I find it? I'll send you the article. We can post a link to it.
All right.
But they did a study on this idea of listening in to a conversation versus being in a conversation.
Go on.
Okay, so we've got two groups. We've got our first group, they're in pairs. So person one, person two are having a conversation with each other. Okay. They are engaging and they're trying to problem solve a problem. They're putting together a puzzle. It's a tanagram.
Yep. Got it.
We've got a third person whose job is to not participate, is to listen and watch what the other people are up to.
Are they eavesdropping?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep, that's their job. In this study is to eavesdrop, to watch what is happening and listen to what's happening.
Okay.
So that's the first half of that. Okay. The second half now, they've taken these people and now they've put them to several different tests in trying to look at images to see if they can understand and predict emotions of other people, to read emotions. Anyway, they put them through a test to see how they performed in their theory of mind and being able to understand what other people were thinking or feeling at the time they were doing it. It turns out that the people that were eavesdropping did much better in being able to read other people than the people who were just problem solving on their own.
So the person that was eavesdropping has a better ability to tune in to capture that than the two people that were actually having the conversation.
Correct. So because they are exercising, because if I'm just in a conversation with you, all I'm doing is I'm, engaging with you right now.
As an exceptional listener, of course.
Exactly. And that's what I'm engaging in. If I am watching us, if I'm eavesdropping, I am then trying to pick up on, okay, what tone is this person using? Where is that person coming from? Why are they doing this way? What are they doing that way? What might they say next? I've got to be able to kind of analyze both sides of the situation to really figure out what's going on, which is exercising my theory of mind, my ability to better understand and be empathetic towards people.
I think you're a genius. My brain went to Seinfeld.
Okay.
So I was listening to you, but then I immediately went to the episode where Jerry is dating the deaf woman who reads lips, but they're sitting at dinner and it's George there for some reason. And then the woman goes, oh no, that couple is breaking up, observing a table behind Jerry and George. And then they have this entire conversation about how they can utilize her to take her to a party to find out what the two people were talking about so that they can get the information. That's just where my brain went. I'm sorry. But funny. Is it tied to what you're talking about in terms of the awareness piece, the intentionality piece, to be able to the skill set, if you will, to be able to tune into what people are talking about? It's very similar to this theory of mind.
Yeah.
Or is it not at all? It's just a funny episode.
No, it's a hilarious episode. It is tied together because it is, like you said, it's that awareness and understanding of what is going on around you.
Yeah.
If you are, you walk into a group of friends and they are all really sad and just sullen and down, and you're coming in like, hey, I'm having a good time. Ooh, look at me. You're not responding to what they're putting out.
Yep.
You're not making the connection with those folks at all.
And that's that social awareness piece where you pick up on your surroundings. So if those two folks that are having the conversation, they're just having the conversation, they're problem solving in this study, that other person is the spy, right? They're super intentional. They need to figure out what's going on. What are you doing? And your heightened sense of social awareness, your physical awareness, all those things, your vision sharpens, your hearing sharpens, all those things you bring up to a whole new level of sensitivity while the other people are just talking.
Yeah. I think overhearing is basically that sense of awareness, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not saying to be overly aware and super alert all the time. You're going to go nuts trying to take in all this stimulus and all this, information. But it is part of that, right? That overhearing something. And then what do you do with that?
Yep.
Now that I've overheard something, how do I act on that information? Do I do nothing about it, or do I do something with it?
Yep.
And what do I do, and what implications does that have?
100% agreed. The thing that we've talked about briefly, but I think we need to unpack this a little bit more, is the responsibility of the people having this conversation. We talked about it briefly. Where does that fall in the realm of eavesdropping, into the realm of overhearing? Is this third party in the experiment, right? But the conversation that's being had by the two people, what's their responsibility to have that conversation somewhere else, or to know that, hey, this is a pretty sensitive conversation, it might get picked up? Is that their is it their responsibility to think about that? Is it the responsibility of the potential eavesdropper to not eavesdrop on what's going on?
Maybe a little of both, but it goes back to the awareness piece, I think.
Like if you're having this sensitive conversation in public, you almost have to walk in with the assumption that somebody might overhear this.
Someone might overhear it. Absolutely. Someone might overhear that, and I need to be ready for that. I need to be not surprised if that information gets out there.
Yep.
And again, it goes back.
That was just happening at our table. I didn't want anybody to overhear that.
Yeah. It's kind of why when you lean in, your fault. You lean in and whisper. You lean in and whisper, and you're like, oh, they're talking about something good over there.
And somebody else is going to lean in because they see you leaning in and whispering.
Sure.
So that is your responsibility. That's the social responsibility of both parties. Say, if you're going to talk about something that's super sensitive, you don't want anybody else getting ears on it, don't talk about it in public. However, if you do hear something that you perhaps shouldn't be listening in on, but all of a sudden you start eavesdropping because you're really interested in that, you probably shouldn't do that either. That's none of your business.
Have you ever done this where you hear someone talking about something and you're like, I want to jump into that conversation. You're just like, I'm going to speak up and say something.
All the time. All the time. But, okay, so to that extent, now you're in a situation, let's say you're at a bar, let's say the game is on, and there's 3 or 4 people talking about the game, and you're just talking about the situation. Or you're talking about the movie, or you're talking about something. And all of a sudden, the person sitting at the bar behind you is like, oh yeah, blah, 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 blah. And everybody's like, oh, John's always got a viewpoint on this. Come here, tell us what you're thinking about. And all of a sudden you're talking about this thing in a social thing where you're almost inviting other people to join in the conversation. And even if it's not to that extent, it's socially acceptable if somebody else pops into your conversation because it's
Absolutely.
a general topic. So you're talking about there is actually a social setting where you can have these public conversations where eavesdropping is okay and
Where
almost borderline welcomed.
It's kind of part of it. Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of welcome because we're in a public space, hanging out, socializing. There are environments where that is okay, right?
Oh,
absolutely.
God, this is such an awkward thing too, because I'll be at a party, which I don't ever really want to be at, and I'll be walking around by myself, which I'm really good at doing because I don't like that's like my worst nightmare setting. And people are like, "Oh, this thing," and I'm like, "Oh yeah, I've got dogs too." I'll just sidle right up to your conversation, Seinfeld, and go, "Hey, what's?" I overheard you guys were talking about dogs. I've got dogs too. Dogs are so cool.
Yeah, you're weird, dude. Don't do that.
Is that okay? Is that terrible? But if somebody's talking about, hey, the football team, blah, 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 and I was like, oh, yeah, I was at that game. Oh, you were at that game? Or, I heard that this concert happened the other night. I was there. Oh, no way. And then you
yeah.
But like you overheard that, you were eavesdropping. Something was happening where you heard what they were talking about because you were not a part of it. But it's kind of socially acceptable for you to walk right into that conversation because you can relate to it. You were there, you saw it, whatever it was.
It's a gamble, right? If you're like, okay, can I use this to make a connection with someone they're going to be like, they're going to find value in that. They're going to enjoy that. And I'm going to enjoy that. I think that's kind of the decider of, okay, I was at that concert too. Like I was super excited about that. I might say something just because it's kind of fun. If it's pretty benign or not interesting, or it's not going to add value, I probably am not going to jump in, like, oh yeah, my dog had that dog food once and barfed all over. Like I wouldn't buy that. Like they're going to be like,
but that happens
this
too.
Weirdo.
That happens all the time. Like, okay, cool. See you later.
Oh man.
This is all right. This is the topic that we chose to kick off season 3 in the realm of I'm listening. The topic is eavesdropping, and I don't know what the hell we just talked about for the last 30 minutes. What are you walking away with right now in the realm of eavesdropping?
I came into this topic originally thinking that eavesdropping is not a good thing. I am now in that middle line between overhearing and eavesdropping, trying to go, okay, when is this beneficial and when is it not? That idea of theory of mind is a new thing for me, and I really like that, right? That ability, having an ability to understand other people, their thoughts, emotions, beliefs. Part of that is through observing, being aware, and maybe having to listen in once in a while. How I act on that information, that's the tricky part. But I think there's opportunity there to use our listening skills to make positive connections or add value to situations where maybe we weren't able to before.
I think that's that right there is the takeaway for me too. We're kind of taught that eavesdropping is bad. Overhearing, okay, sure, it's circumstantial. It's what you do with the information. It's your intentional acts of that very fine line between, is this good or is this bad? Should I be listening? Should I not be listening? Should I say something? Should I not say something? Should I interject? Should I not interject? Should I share this information? Like, that is tricky. That is socially tricky. That is culturally tricky. That's going to vary wherever you are. Your environments are going to really shape how you work in that environment. And you're going to deal with that 100 times a day. If you have 3 meetings, one's in a private room, one's in a coffee shop, and one's in a boardroom, like you have to be able to manage all of that all of the time.
Yeah.
What am I overhearing, and what am I eavesdropping in on? And am I going to a party tonight? And what did I hear over the weekend? What do I do with it? This is very, very challenging. And this is why gossip gets you in trouble. This is why making a mistake, you didn't hear that it was actually her uncle's dog, gets you in trouble. but it can also be a massive component of national security, of public safety. Like, it's a weird. Brant, you brought this topic up to me, and I was like, "Yeah, eavesdropping, bad. Okay, we'll hammer this out." This is very complicated. We're starting off this season of I'm listening in a very complicated manner. I don't know if there's an answer. I don't think it is black and white, believe it or not, even though I have a hard time not living in that world. This is a very gray matter.
Super gray matter. It was a fun conversation.
Thank you for bringing up the topic. It's been great talking with you again. It's been great kicking off this season.
I will go ahead and add that article about the benefits of eavesdropping into the notes of the podcast, so other folks can look at it too. Super interesting.
And I will go ahead and add the clip of Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Yeah, and Seinfeld.
Equally important. All right, Brant. Great kickoff to the season. I'm excited to see what else comes, and here we go.
All right. Thanks, Drew. We'll see you next time.
Bye, Brant.
Bye.
In the description of this podcast, you will find more information and a list of any of the sources that we used.
This podcast is created and produced by Drew Richmond and Brant Christofferson. Editing by me, and the I'm Listening theme music by Drew.
That's me.
That's you.
Brant, I will talk to you later, my friend.
We'll see you next time.
Yeehaw.
Have a good one, Drew.
Bye, Brant.